Hi, and welcome back to this third part of our introduction to Rooted. So, what does transformation actually mean in the day-to-day of life? And what does personal and collective transformation mean for our everyday lives and relationships? These are good questions, I think, to be asking. And I'm referring to myself here as well, because if they're used too liberally, they can become devalued and watered down over time. For us in Rooted, transformation in personal and collective liberation, they have to do with the reclamation of our capacity and our availability for possibility and mystery. It's about coming back to an awareness and an experience of ourselves as part of, big C creation, and to know the creative influence that we have on and with each other in our worlds. It has to do with embodying again birthright dignity and belonging as we are these interconnected sparks within a cosmic web. And it's about our relationship with the movement of life energy. We are made of it. So it's a lack of choice, whether real or perceived. It's our muted creativity and imagination. It's a feeling of circumstances as fated and the kind of learned helplessness that that produces that are hallmarks of traumagenic environments and depression. It's about the co-optation of desire as a compass. In Rooted, we're not here to focus solely on the suffering that comes from traumagenic conditions. So that is conditions that can lead to trauma. Many of us really know all too well how real that is, but rather to embrace desire as a compass, desire as finding a way out through and beyond what has been known. I'd like to share a short story about desire as a compass. Many years ago, after the birth of my daughter, she was my second child, and during a time in which I lost myself in many, many ways, I lost my center. I developed this intense craving, that's the only way that I can describe it, to be with the earth in some way. At first, it was a craving to actually physically place my bare feet in the grass, especially wet grass, or to lay with my body face down directly on the earth, which only it felt like only tickled an even deeper longing that I had to bury a large part of my body directly into the ground, into the soil, into the earth. At the time, I didn't have a clue why this compulsion was so strong, and I didn't really care. So each time that I would do this, I'd feel my energy drop, as I'd say, like from up here, and I'm gesturing towards my head, down to the ground, down to my feet, and into the ground. And a sense that I'm okay, the world is okay, maybe I'm held, would just come over me. At the time, I remembered hearing this story. It wasn't the first time I'd heard it, but it really landed in my body this time. And it was the story of the moment that Siddhartha Gautama became enlightened. And he took on this posture, this mudra. So with one hand, he touched the ground, and he held up the palm of the other hand in a posture, or a mudra as it's called, of earth witness. That story, at the time when I heard it again, it was like this earthquake inside of me. It created openings that I don't even think I knew existed. I really came to trust this kind of guidance. It certainly wasn't the first time in my life that I'd had it. But to be clear, it made no logical sense for me at the time. I didn't know anything about the thing they call earthing. And I don't know if you know what earthing is, but there are some really interesting documentaries on it on YouTube if you don't know, and if you're curious to learn more. But the experience that I had made me go out and look for that information. I'd type things into Google like, why do I feel so good putting my feet in the grass? This was my overly intellectual side, this kind of survival intelligence that had been with me since I was a child, insisting that I find some validation for this experience, something rational that I could anchor it to. But this is, for me, one example of desire as a compass in action. It's a form of guidance that, when listened to, can create a shift within us. It can create movement of what's become stuck. When we're talking about the impact of trauma and oppression on our lives and on the lives of people and communities around us, and I often also mean this in the broadest way in how modern living creates stuckness in and between us, then desire as a compass is about the liberation and movement of life energy again, and what can be created from that. In her essay on the uses of the erotic as power, queer Black feminist Audre Lorde speaks of the erotic, also desire, as quote unquote, an assertion of the life force, which is its own source of knowledge creation and which guides creativity and action in ways that are deeply embodied and sensuous. There's a joy that she says is associated with the erotic and how it moves us through the world. And if we were to be in touch with this life force within us, we would come to experience a kind of responsibility for and towards it. Desire, libido, life force, these have different names across different cultures and time periods, from comedic life energy to chi to prana, kundalini, and Tao. An understanding of an underlying force that is and moves through us is known, has been known. And so why am I talking about this with respect to rooted? Well, because many of us have had another kind of experience, which we previously talked about, where our relationship to this compass, our relationship to this life force may have been muted by family and community and culture. And the modern world continues to infantilize us in many ways that keep us from a relationship with this sort of guidance. The limitations of science, for all the value and the destruction that it can bring, can also keep many of us from trusting what can be known that doesn't come from quote unquote valid or quote unquote legitimate sources. And here's the thing. At the heart of it, we are being asked right now in this world to engage with and to respond to many of the crises of our time, and not in solo ways, but in communal ways. And yet, for many of us, we have little idea how we're going to do this. For many of us, creativity and imagination have been limited or captured and truncated by what cannot move more freely. I know that we're not meant to simply intellectualize about this from our hyper-individualized culture, but rather to begin to risk new and unknown pathways that might actually lead us to other possibilities for a response. So instead of reacting solely from here, and I'm pointing to my head if you're listening to this, we're learning to cultivate discernment, to refine a compass that would allow us to respond from here. And I'm pointing both to the area of the heart and the head. And not on our own, but from within a network that includes the relationships that we're embedded within and the responsibility that we hold to ourselves and each other. The structure is truly mycelial in nature. The worlds that could come from what we both personally and collectively do are not figured out or revealed to us all at once, but I believe step by step, where we need to move, where we need to put a foot down, where we need to set a boundary, or what we need to do or say next. That becomes clear to us as our compass is refined. And we take back the potential that for many of us was taken away from us as children and perpetuated by modern life, which is this ability to know ourselves and each other as creators by following where we're directed by this compass. The trust in ourselves that we build then becomes a trust in something bigger, bigger than us individually. It helps us stay open to trusting what we can't know, what we can't see, and what we really can't predict. And that trust enables us to stay open to the unknown and the uncertain as well, to the mystery. This is how we're going to learn to become comfortable with uncertainty and change. And this is really where we're going to encounter the new. Defining our compass is not all about learning to navigate difficulty and discomfort. That's there, of course. We also develop our compass in joyful moments through play and celebration, and through contact and knowledge of the sensual body, that we might actually learn to deepen within and recognize the push and pull of that experience within them, not to cling to them or to calcify or make them doctrine, but to allow them in that moment to be what they are for us, guiding moments. Too often in our quest for a sense of wholeness or on any kind of a journey that we embark on, we might find ourselves seeking a leader who will guide us to that destination, whatever that destination might be for us. And certainly a guide, particularly one whose experience can be invaluable. However, there's a crucial distinction, I think, between someone who provides guidance and someone to whom we surrender all our power. I mean, for one, I think the one who might offer the guidance and the ability to learn to trust ourselves is not necessarily proclaiming that they know the way. I remember once having this epiphany about how we react in times of crises, both personally and globally. And in these urgent moments, there's a sense of urgency that arises in them, right? It's natural to look outside of ourselves for someone to instruct us on what to do, to think, how we should act, especially when we are overwhelmed. This reaction is completely understandable, and it's a response that is linked to our innate survival instincts. I mean, I'll tell you what, in a hypothetical zombie apocalypse, I am going to follow someone equipped with the necessary tools and the knowledge of where to find shelter and safety. And such leadership really does have its place and importance. But in Rooted, we embrace the humility and openness of a way rather than the way. That's something that really evolves through collective wisdom and shared experiences. You know, this path recognizes that knowledge and truth are not monopolized by any one individual or group, but are discovered and enriched through diverse perspectives and dialogues. It's about embracing the journey as a collaboration and exploration, where trust is placed in the collective rather than solely in the authority of a few. I really want to thank you for joining us in this short exploration to some of our foundations in Rooted. I hope that this has illuminated something for you, and whether or not you choose to join us in Rooted, we wish you all the best on your journey.